Welcome to the weekly Cash Sports Media Sports Desk. I'm Tim Olson here with Tyler Huskinson and Curtis Lundstrom. We're going to talk about some local athletic topics as well as on the national scene. We'll start off locally with high school baseball, and for the second week in a row, or third week in a row even, Skyview, Logan, and Mountain Crest are all tied atop the Region 5 standings. Nobody wants to give up any room. Looks like it's going to be a battle at the top. It's going to be we're going to see some spacing this week, though, as Logan and Skyview play each other twice, and Mountain Crest and Logan meet once at the end of the week. Curtis, you cover Mountain Crest. What do you think about their baseball team so far this year?
They've got a solid squad out there. Coach Hanson's done a good job with those boys, and I see them being tough to beat no matter who they play. I mean, there's a reason they've only lost one game, and Justin Peterson in particular is pitching really well for the Mustangs.
Do you think they're the best team in the Valley?
You know, I can't say they're the best because I haven't seen Skyview play. I've caught glimpses of Logan, but from what I have seen, I'd pick Mountain Crest over Logan. But I can't say Skyview because I haven't seen them play.
Okay. Well, what's your thoughts on the subject, Tyler?
Well, Skyview's an interesting team because they are a team. They don't just have one player that's a standout all-star that's rock solid. I mean, aside from their pitcher Tyler Lichty, who has great solid pitcher, they really don't have anyone that has that all-star label that I put on them. But they get the job done. They stretch out innings. They find out some way to pull it out. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they can definitely turn on the switch. I'm probably most familiar with Skyview, and then Logan next behind that. But they do have a lot of players that can hit the plate too. When they get going, they can really get going. Mitch Berryhill, Jason Alverson. They've got some guys that can really light it up at the plate. And then last week we had a new hero. They were down against Box Elder 4-1, I think, in the going into the top of the sixth inning, and then they reel off 7 runs in the top of the sixth, close it out at the bottom of the sixth, and went 8-4. So, or top of the seventh. Anyway, yeah, bottom of the sixth is when they hit the 7, scored the 7 runs. But they definitely got some firepower when they can get going. If they bring their game, they're going to be tough to beat, and Logan as well. Spencer Parkinson, Spencer McKay. The two Spencers are playing well. DJ Nelson, we know what he can do.
He's a tough out.
And good teams all around. So it should be fun this week to see who kind of flexes their muscle. We know the one Valley matchup that we've seen was between Skyview and Logan, and it went 11 innings with Skyview winning by a run. In a game that Logan probably should have won.
Probably. They had several chances, left a lot of runners on scoring position.
So crazy things ahead in Region 5 baseball.
Logan and Skyview's offensive power will be key against Mountain Crest when they do match up. The Mountain Crest tends to lean on their defense and win close, low-scoring games.
Yeah, and I do take that back. We actually have seen Skyview and Mountain Crest play each other. I'd forgotten about that. They played a doubleheader a couple weeks ago, and Skyview won out at Mountain Crest 6-2 in a game that Skyview pretty much dominated, and it was their first win for that senior class out at Mountain Crest. And then they went and played at the Blue Sox Diamond that night, and Mountain Crest won, I think, 15-7 or something. So they turned around and flexed their muscle. So we've seen a little bit of a triangle here, and it should continue to fight each other out for the region win.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Definitely. Also staying here in the Valley, we're talking a little bit about Aggie football. We had the second spring scrimmage this past Friday. And right off the bat, what I noticed was that Chucky Keaton, I think, is really starting to separate himself in the quarterback battle. Not that Adam Kennedy is not a good quarterback. We know what he did last year for the Aggies, and more experience this year is great. But I think Chucky's really grown. We know that Chucky's a great athlete, and what he brings to the table. And I think he's really improved as a passer. The scrimmage, I believe he was 9 of 13 on Friday for a touchdown, ran for 18 yards, and probably really double that, except they whistle him dead every time someone breathes on him. So he didn't get to quite showcase his talent. And but yeah, 9 of 13, 98 yards and a touchdown. Whereas Adam struggled a little bit more on the day. I think he was 7 of 13 for 42 yards, threw one interception, which came on a tipped ball, and then on the very next play, he almost threw another interception that was just dropped by the defender. So at least, I mean, we're still early in the spring, but Chucky seems to be kind of separating himself there. And I expect him to be the starter when we open against Southern Utah.
Well, you can't discount Adam Kennedy's run ability, but
no, you can't.
With this year, it's going to be most likely a spread offense, and Chucky's just one of those dynamic quarterbacks that will thrive in that kind of system. I think a little bit more than Adam Kennedy would, despite Kennedy's arm and his ability to be comfortable in the pocket and calm and not scramble maybe as much as Chucky might.
Definitely.
Too early to throw some predictions out there. How well do you think the Aggies do this next season?
No, I've thought about it, looking at the schedule and what they have ahead. They've got a lot of winnable games, especially early on. I mean, they should beat Southern Utah. They can beat Utah at home. It won't be easy, but they can beat Utah, and the home game helps. And I think they can beat BYU at BYU. The last two games against the Cougars have been very close. Well, no, that's a lie. We blew them out, and then last year it was close at Provo. And I think we know we don't have to worry about Jake Heaps this year. We know we're going to be playing Riley Nelson down in Provo. So we can game plan for that and his scrambling ability and the things that he was able to have success with last year. And so I think we play at Colorado State. Long story short, the Aggies have a lot of winnable games. And then the WAC is pretty wide open. I mean, La Tech will be tough. We play them on the road, but it's pretty wide open WAC. So long story short, I think they'll improve on their win total. They got 7 wins last year. I got them going 8-4 this year in the regular season.
The only thing that concerns me is their lack of depth on defense. They're going with a 3-4 this year, and they don't have their 2 stellar DNs from last season in Quinn Garden and Levi Koskin. Yeah. They have 3 freshmen in the depth charts this year, and so that's something that really concerns me. So I mean, they have some guys that have played a little bit, but no one's really stepped up. They're really depending on people that didn't play a whole ton of defensive minutes last season. So that'll be something. I mean, they might have to outscore teams instead of stop them defensively and play well on offense. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, Gary Anderson's harped on it in the 2 scrimmages that we've had so far that the run defense has struggled, and I think we'll see that improve when some guys get back that have been injured. Bojay went down in the first scrimmage, and you'll see some. I think the defense will improve, but definitely their depth up front is again a problem, and run defense in general could cause some problems, especially against some bigger teams. Playing at Wisconsin, Utah always has a good running attack, so that could be a problem there. But at the same time, the secondary should be better this year.
That's for sure. It definitely will be better. Lots of experience returning,
and we know the offense should have the ability to put up some points. So. I'm predicting 8-4.
We'll see how it plays out, and hopefully they make you a true prophet.
We shall see. We shall see. Finally, we'll close with a national topic, though a little bit local, regional as well. We got the NBA shortened regular season coming to a close with a big game for the Utah Jazz Tuesday night, tomorrow night, when they host the Phoenix Suns. Those teams are battling for the final spot in the Western Conference playoffs. And, I think the Jazz are coming on strong. I think they're going to win this game against the Suns. Not that it'll be easy, but then again, the Jazz have had, a quadruple overtime game, a triple overtime game. I'm sure probably a double overtime game at some point.
They've got a cycle this season.
And we know that they just beat Orlando in overtime in their last game. So they like to have some dramatics, but I think they're coming together as a team. Devin Harris is playing really well. The younger guys are stepping up and giving good minutes. We know Millsap's a beast. Al Jefferson has never been to the playoffs. I think he's smelling some blood, and he's really stepped up his game. I know in the win against Dallas the other night, in the triple overtime game, he had 28 points and 26 rebounds. So
monster game.
Yeah, that was a good game. And so I think it's exciting. I've been looking on KSL for some tickets, so if any of you viewers out there have some tickets for the game, get in touch. But it should be exciting.
What do you think the keys to a Jazz victory Tuesday will be?
I'm not a professional basketball analyst. I don't profess to be, but knowing the Jazz and their struggles, one of the biggest struggles is just defense. Whether they want to play defense or not, they can. But if they get out and defend, I think they'll have a good chance. Obviously, you got to slow down Steve Nash. Phoenix likes to shoot the three, and they can get going. So you just got to contain them. They're not tempo offense with Nash running the point, and the Jazz just need to get back in defense and play well.
I think their perimeter defense will be huge. Guys like Jared Dudley and especially Steve Nash, they like to sit out there and pop the three. And that sometimes kills the Jazz. They don't close very well on help defense, especially in the zone.
Against Orlando.
Mm-hmm. And so things like that. I mean, if they can close out, or even if they're playing man, whatever they're doing, they need to play solid defense. I definitely agree with Tim. And they need to get out to a good start because they can't afford a 15-point, 20-point deficit and expect to have some comeback late in the fourth quarter. I don't think the Suns will allow that to happen even on the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Harris needs to keep playing at the level he's been playing at. We know that the Jazz will probably do well inside with Jefferson and Millsap and even Favors and Cantor. They can come in and give some good minutes and have had some good games this year. But it's the outside shooting for the Jazz. It's been their Achilles heel in a lot of games. And you look at the last game against Orlando, what finally put them over the top in that overtime was Hayward knocked down a big three, and then Harris followed that up with another big three. So if they can hit some outside shots from get Hayward, Burks is a good kid who can hit some shots and slash, give him some athleticism. Then that's kind of an X factor for the Jazz. But I do think they'll win the game tomorrow night and lock up the playoff spot. Which there's been some talk. Is that good? Is that bad? If they lock it up, there's a decent chance that they could end up not having a draft pick this season. Because they'll lose if they make the playoffs, they lose their draft pick that they got from Minnesota, I think. Mm-hmm. And then if they, depending on where Golden State finishes, they have the Warriors draft pick. But if it's in the top 7, they don't. I think is how it works out. Mm-hmm. So there's a decent chance they could not have a draft pick if they make the playoffs. But I think with this young team, they've got a lot of young pieces. It would be the playoff experience would be more beneficial than another draft pick, though it is a pretty good draft this year. But we'll see what happens. What do you guys think about that draft picks versus making the playoffs?
I think the playoff experience is invaluable. Like you said, they have a lot of young pieces. They don't need another player who might or might not be an instant impact guy. I mean, not everyone's going to get the Rookie of the Year, no matter how good the draft class is. I mean, we still got guys who are freshmen, sophomores in college, taking the early exit.
We can always take the starting 5 from Kentucky next year.
Sure. It's stuff like that, and that's a whole other tangent. But I think the playoffs are definitely more valuable than another draft pick.
I agree with that. As far as the draft goes, you have great players come from all different aspects of the draft, whether it's a lottery pick or there's been 6th, 7th rounders that turn into NBA prodigies. So the draft doesn't worry me as much as the playoff experience. When you get to those playoffs, that experience pays dividends, and I think that'll carry them next year, whether they, have to go deep in the playoffs this year or not, provided they make it. I'm predicting to win as well Tuesday to clinch the playoffs. But if they make the playoffs this year, it'll provide added piece of experience for next season to carry them even farther.
Well, it's not only a piece of experience for the young players, but also for Coach Corbin. I mean, he can definitely use the playoff experience as well as a coach. It's just totally different aspect. You reach the playoffs, those do or die moments.
While we're talking about the Jazz, I'll throw a couple things out here. You guys can pick one of them and touch on it if you like. 2 things. I know the Jazz were picked at the bottom of the West this year. So if they make the playoffs, does that throw Corbin into any type of Coach of the Year consideration? And the second thing being, looking back at the trade, which sent Darren Williams to New Jersey and brought Favors and the pick that turned into Cantor and Harris to Utah. Looking back on that now, I think that was a great trade. You look at what Orlando's going through with Dwight Howard, what Denver went through with Carmelo, and obviously what happened with LeBron in Cleveland, and what New Jersey's going through now. I don't think Darren Williams. I don't think Darren Williams is going to re-sign with the Nets.
Right.
So basically, they gave away the number 3 pick from the past 2 drafts, a couple of solid players, and $3 million to the Jazz for a 1.5-year rental with Darren Williams.
That's a pretty high price.
And I don't think he would have re-signed with the Jazz either. So you look at the position they're in now and where the position that Orlando's probably headed, where the Jazz could be headed. I think they knew what they were doing. I felt that way at the time. I was sad to see D-Will go. I liked him as a player. It was fun, the playoff runs during the 06-07 season.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think it was a smart move by the Jazz, seeing what was coming and getting a lot of bang for their buck. And so I'll just those are my final thoughts on the Jazz and where they are right now.
Coach of the Year is kind of a stretch. He's done a great job with a really young team and with a lot of pieces that just hadn't played together very much. Still, I mean, getting picked last in the conference, still making the playoffs. You know, that's a good thing. I would think that maybe if they win the first round, or maybe if they get a little bit further and make some kind of noise in the playoffs, maybe he gets into consideration, because there's so many other coaches out there that are just getting a lot more notice. Thibodeau from the Bulls is definitely one that's out there just for what they've done without Derrick Rose. I mean, they have a lot more pieces, I guess, that are more experienced, but still, I'm not the one that votes
for Chicago Jazz, you mean?
That's true.
Boozer,
that's true.
Ronnie Brewer, and
Kyle Korver. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'd say Coach of the Year is a bit of a stretch, even if they make a playoff run. But
certainly,
there's no doubt that losing Darren Williams was one of the best decisions the Jazz franchise has ever made. So it's definitely paying its dividends. And I'll admit, I never really liked Darren Williams, but so there's some bias in that.
As a player, he was good for the most part. I had a couple of chances. I had a couple of chances to watch him in person and interview him post game, and I saw some red flags that definitely told me he was done. So it was definitely a good trade. I think the Jazz got Grand Theft,
Yeah, definitely
on that, because
he's always kind of been a little bit of a hothead. Personally, I feel he's been overhyped throughout his career. I mean, you got to give him credit for throwing 57 down the other day or a few weeks ago, but
against the Charlotte Bobcats.
Well, yeah, it's true. It is against the Bobcats, but still, 57 points is no small feat. But then again, you look at some of the players in his position. Vince Carter did the same thing with the Nets or the Raptors, and so you got to give him props for that. But he's a little overhyped, in my opinion.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for us here at Cash Sports Media. Thanks for tuning into the Sports Desk, and check back next week. Maybe we'll be talking about the Jazz's playoff victory prospects against the Thunder or the Spurs.